Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be a champion guide for Skulllord Var-Gall. So let's get into it. All right, let's do this. Here we go. Fusion. Bing, 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 boom. And there we have it. Alrighty, and that was me fusing Skulllord yesterday. I tried to get it done as soon as possible so I could get this guide out to everybody, and as you can see, the fusion is gone. I can no longer fuse him because of that. But let's go ahead and pull him up in the index here. Let's go into Lizardmen, and we've got the Defense Force Affinity Legendary up here, Skulllord Var-Gall. Now remember, as always, with my champion guides, I will have an infographic down in the vid description that you can pull up to kind of take a look at the masteries I'm currently using on them, and just kind of see all the grades and general stuff, pertaining to the hero. It will be down in the vid description. So let's get that put away, and let's go over the kit here. So an A1 that attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit fills the champion's turn meter by 5% with a 30% chance to repeat this skill. So kind of an extra chance to get more turns, more hits in there. Place a 100% heal reduction debuff on the target for 2 turns if the skill is repeated. So we have a little bit of a qualifier there. Not going to be consistent heal reduction, but there's a 30% chance that it's going to be placed, when the turn is repeated. Damage based on defense. We do love champions that are based on defense in general, because those are typically able to scale really good toughness and damage at the same time if they're based on defense, as opposed to attack where you're only scaling your damage and not your damage and your toughness at the same time. We've got the A2 that places a 25% strengthen buff on this champion for 2 turns, has a 75% chance of placing a provoke debuff on a target enemy for 1 turn. So kind of a self-buffing champion that isn't just going to do that and kind of waste the turn. We're also going to have a good chance to provoke a random enemy, and we can actually get that up to a permanent strengthen and a 100% chance of placing a provoke if we're willing to spend the 4 books on it. Then we've got an AoE, that 75% chance of placing the big version of decrease attack for 2 turns on a 5-turn cooldown that we can book up to 100% chance to place the debuff, and a 4-turn cooldown. I think this ability should be a 4-turn cooldown that we can book to 3. In my opinion, that would bring him a little bit more into line balance-wise. I think that's just a little bit too long of a cooldown for the AoE decrease attack with him being a legendary. Then the passives are pretty interesting on him. We've got when attacked, decreases the attacker's max HP by 5%, cannot decrease a single enemy's max HP by more than 50%, occurs once per enemy attack, and does not work against bosses. A 50% chance of placing a true fear debuff on targets whose max HP has been decreased by 20% or more. So it kind of seems like this is mainly only going to get used in like faction wars and the arena, and some sort of like meme strat with the destroy set that is basically useless. That's the set that gives you the decreased enemy max HP by % damage dealt. It's a pretty trash set. I guess they're trying to release a champion that might work with that set. I still don't think that set would be super viable even with him. So I don't know. The fact that it doesn't work against bosses, like the Spirit Keep or anything kind of jinxes his utility. And then the Fire Knight, we're not going to be able to kind of place the stuff on him. So really kind of gimps him a little bit in terms of places where he could have been maybe useful for that effect there. Then we've got Revive Skullsworn with a 50% HP and 50% turn meter at the start of each turn. If there are multiple Skullsworns on the team, only one of them will be revived. So obviously, as part of the fusion, it was really a Skulllord Var-Gall and Skullsworn synergy. We had to farm a bunch of Skullsworns that fused into Drakes and then fused into him. So I guess they're trying to kind of synergize. They should have just added Drake to this. I mean, why not complete the meme? It should have been Revive, 1 random Skullsworn and 1 random Drake at the start of each turn. I mean, why not? Drake and Skullsworn, neither one of them are really like game-changing champions. It would have been a fun meme for faction wars, and we're actually talking with them behind the scenes about trying to get some changes that would maybe bring Skulllord kind of up the tier list a little bit and being worthy of a legendary, like getting this to a 4-turn cooldown that can book to 3, or making this provoke like 2 or 3 enemies instead of just 1, or even an AoE, and then maybe working on some of these passives to give them less qualifiers and some more consistent value. But one thing that is worth noting is the base stats on Skulllord are absolutely insane. A 107 base speed is really good. A base defense of 1310 is really good, and 27,420 is really good base HP. The attack doesn't matter. Then we've also got a 90 base resist and a 70 base accuracy. So as far as base stats on the champion, one of the best in the game, but that doesn't always determine everything because we don't know the multipliers. So the be-all, end-all is the multiplier. I mean, if your multipliers are insane, it doesn't matter what your base stats are. You're still going to put out actual value on the battlefield. So without knowing the multipliers, the base stats don't mean a whole lot, but it is definitely cool that he can scale really well with good gear. You know, if you're able to get like 6-star gear on him, that really scales his defense. You're going to be able to bump those stats up pretty significantly. So let's go ahead and pull up my Skulllord here, and I'll kind of show you my thought process and what I'm thinking about here. So, okay, back out, go champions and Skulllord. Okay, the first thing I want to make sure I mention is do not just blindly copy my masteries. I wanted to build him as a damage dealer for Faction Wars. That's what I was prioritizing, and I wanted to take stuff like Sniper because I don't want to invest all of the books in him to get his stuff up to be a 100%. So I went with the Sniper just to make the decrease attack in Faction Wars a little bit more reliable. But honestly, I think the better route is to kind of go War Master on him, maybe even Giant Slayer because his A1 can get some extra turns. One of those two would probably be more optimal than crit damage. I wanted to build him as a damage dealer and kind of see what his potential is in terms of that. And then I just kind of took your standard Evil Eye. You know, Lore of Steel isn't that great with the fact that I have him in lifesteal gear. So the masteries admittedly are not perfect. So I would be really hesitant and take my masteries with a grain of salt and build him how you want him, because I was kind of building him to test him as a damage dealer with my main focus being Faction Wars. So that's kind of why I went with the defense and lifesteal, because in Faction Wars, the Lizardmen don't have super good healing. So in order to progress, I really want him to be a super self-sufficient champion. And with that crit damage and 100% crit rate, be able to constantly sustain himself so I don't have to count on good healing from him to kind of keep him on the battlefield and keep him alive. I don't even think I'm going to build the Skullsworn to go along with him. I don't think that ability is going to be super impactful. I mean, I think it's a fun little meme to try out, but I like where their head's at and trying to do fun stuff like this to really synergize different champions, especially ones within factions that really make sense lore-wise to kind of work together. So I like where the head's at, and there's some potential here to make cool things like this in the game. I just don't think this one is super impactful enough for me to like go max out a Skullsworn and try to do things in Faction Wars. I'd rather just use the guy individually in defense and lifesteal and see if he can help me progress that way. But we'll go over the banner. We do want accuracy for the turn meter manipulation and the provoking, and obviously you want your amulet and your gloves to kind of synergize. If you're gonna have good crit rate, you do typically want a crit damage amulet, and then your best blend of like defense and accuracy as the substats. Your ring is gonna be a defense ring with your best blend of HP and defense down below in the substats. The boots are almost always going to be speed on him. We want him to really snowball and get a bunch of turns. Then we're looking for defense, crit rate, HP, accuracy. Again, a defense chest is basically mandatory. We're going to want our best defense percent chest on him. And with the gloves, there's lots of different ways you can do it. Crit rate, defense, crit damage. If you have insane crit rate and you want to build him as a damage dealer, you can build him like a super tanky style and build him differently than I did and kind of go the defense glove route. But like I said before, I wanted to make him as a damage dealer to kind of help me progress in Faction Wars, because my Lizardmen team is one of my worst teams. So I was in kind of desperate need of a damage dealer worth investing in, and I figured with his good base stats, I wanted to build him like that and see what he's capable of. Then the shield, these are all pretty obvious. I'll just kind of show you what I'm wearing there. Shield, helm, this is kind of a good example of what you'd want on him. Defense, speed, crit rate, HP. As long as you have an accuracy banner and a few rolls of accuracy, you should be fine in terms of accuracy on him. And a pretty good example of a weapon you would kind of want. Remember, weapons can't roll defense, so you're not going to get a whole lot of defense from your weapon. And I've had some footage playing kind of picture in picture, so you can just kind of see him in action while I'm talking. But One thing I do like to do, just so people can really see the champion in action, is go into, so he's a Force champion, so we'll do 12-6, but I like to throw him in here and just kind of let you see them clearing the campaign. One thing annoying about him as a campaign farmer is the no aura, but obviously you're not going to use him as a campaign farmer, but this will give you a chance to kind of see how hard he hits in 12-3, which is really a good barometer that we use to compare a lot of different champions. He'll probably do it in like 30 seconds. You're not going to use him as a campaign farmer. He's worse than the starters, like the rares, Elaine, and Galek and Kale and Aethel. He's worse than them in terms of being a campaign farmer. Could he help you 3-star to like progress content? I guess, because he's, you know, self-sufficient and places provokes and decreases attack, and he'll be super tanky and be able to stay alive. But so I guess maybe he could help you 3-star certain content, especially against those like magic levels, because he's Force and he would counter them, and he's extremely tough. But you're not going to be using him a ton in the campaign, in my opinion. And before I dive into kind of talking about my opinions on the Fusion in hindsight, I like to go through and pull them up and do the reviews in game. So let's go ahead, go back into champions, go reviews. Okay, recommended artifacts, defense, and HP. I think it should be defense and speed, but alright. Ratings, faction wars. That's a little bit too high. I mean, the Lizardman faction's a little bit tough to do, so I will give him a 4. Not a 5, though. Campaign, a 3. I mean, the arena's interesting. I mean, you could probably build some sort of team around him that's like super tanky, and then get those fears based off of max HP reduction to start proccing and stuff. If you build him in a super sustained team, gosh, I guess I could maybe see some sort of utility with his insane base stats. I'll give him a 3. Not great, though, in my opinion. Minotaur, he's got the decreased attack and really good stats. Sure, I'll give him a 5. He'd be alright there. Clan Boss, the decreased attack is on a huge cooldown. He can get multiple turns to work really well with like Giant Slayer and stuff, but 3. Void Keep, I mean, he'll be fine in most of these keeps. The Force Keep, he doesn't decrease. He decreases attack, not defense, so 3. And Fire Knight, again, he's got the multi-hit A1. He can help you burn down the shield if he procs those extra turns. And heal reduction is actually an okay debuff in the Fire Knight. So he's like a 3 or a 4. Not amazing. Sure, I'll give him a 4. Arena defense. Again, kind of same story as what I said in the arena before. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but he could end up being useful in certain teams. Magic Keep, he does counter the affinity, but again, he's not like got buff removal or anything. And 3. Ice Golem, he's kind of tanky, which is good in the Ice Golem dungeon. I'll give him a 4. Spider Den, he's going to be really, really bad, so we don't go there. Spirit Keep, he's affinity countered. His heal reduction doesn't work on bosses, so I mean, I don't really see why you would use him there. We're going to go a 1. Dragon Lair isn't really a tanky dungeon or anything. So yeah, I mean, I don't see how he would be super good there. We'll give him a 3 because of his stats and him being a legendary and self-sustaining, but not great in the dragon. But yeah, so should you fuse him? I think my general opinion is not changed from before I did the fusion. I kind of said I don't anticipate him being super impactful or super meta anywhere. But my opinion is, if it's realistic for you to acquire a legendary, you should, because you never know when you're going to want them or when they're going to get buffed or reworked, or if they're going to be good for future content. So really, in hindsight, my opinion is unchanged. I don't think he's a super high priority for free-to-play players. So if you're free-to-play, maybe just skip it. But if you spend a decent amount of money and you're in the game to acquire legendaries and stuff, I would go ahead and do it. But don't expect him to like super impact your account or be super meta or anything. You know, yeah, so basically what I've been saying for the last few days is kind of unchanged. You know, even with the hindsight of kind of maxing him out and really testing him, I don't think he's really worth the books or anything like that. He might be worth 6-starring and just kind of using with a priority towards faction wars, in my opinion. So yeah, as always, remember, a link to that infographic will be down in the video description. You can see that right there. That is what's down in the description if you want to pull that up and take a look. But remember, you may not want to use my exact masteries. Make sure and kind of build the masteries yourself. Don't just blindly copy mine. I was kind of testing him as a damage dealer, like I said before. So yeah, as always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.